So Vlad's racing this week. So we're not out chasing crowns or doing anything intense, but it's actually the perfect chance to answer a question we've been seeing a lot in the comments, and that's how you should structure your training. As usual, Vlad's going to bring the elite perspective. He's trained at the top level in pro triathlon, in road marathons, and now in ultra marathons. So today we're going to break down the key principles he uses across all of his training, and most importantly, how you can apply them even if you're time poor and you just want to make the most out of the hours that you do have. And a quick shout out, a lot of our recent videos like the trekking pole breakdown, downhill running form, and this video came directly from your comments. We genuinely love tackling the topics you ask for, so if there's something you want to see next, make sure you drop it below. All right, mate, let's start with volume. How do you determine how much volume you need to do in each training build?
You know, you've got to look at your goals and your experience, as in your history as a runner. And then from there, you can say, okay, look, you know, for a beginner, more amateur runner, you know, if you're hitting somewhere between 30 and 40 kilometers a week, that's probably a great place to start. As you start getting more experienced and start looking at trying to potentially get close to an age group result, then you really need to be running between 50 and 75 plus kilometers a week. And when you start looking to become somebody that's chasing podiums, then like myself, you would be looking to do a minimum of 120 kilometers a week throughout the year. And then in build phases, you will be hitting higher mileage of 160 kilometers plus, which is what I do.
So talk to me about that training build, because how long before a race do you have an intentional build in volume?
Most people would be targeting like one goal. They're like, okay, I'm going to do that marathon, I'm going to do that ultra. And if that's the case, 16 weeks seems to be the sweet spot. That's from my experience what works really well, because within that time, you can have 3 to 4 down weeks and then some consistent builds. And you kind of like try and progress, you know, like in steps. So you can ramp up towards having your peak somewhere between 5 to 6 weeks out from your goal race.
Within those builds, is it based on mileage? Is that how you're going to like determine the build? Just like how many kilometers you're running each week?
For me, it's based on mileage, but for a lot of people, it's going to be more time-based, I think, you know, because that's just going to suit you more.
I mean, that's something that really, you know, resonates with me. I know as someone who's got kids and work and things like that, I have struggled with really rigid training plans, whereas I've found it more effective to have a broad, okay, we're going to try and hit 10 hours a week. And within those time goals, then I would obviously have, okay, this week I want to hit at least one good speed session and one long run. And I can be flexible about where that fits in the week. Speaking of sessions, let's talk about the next topic. What are the key sessions that you would work into each week?
Definitely the long run is the most important run every week for everyone that's trying to hit some type of race during the year. That's not negotiable.
Is that for even like 5K, 10K, half marathon?
Absolutely, marathon? Yep. So you need to have an engine there that you can build off all the time. And then comes the other things that people will usually just launch straight into. Speed work, yes, it's important, especially if you're doing shorter races, marathon and under. So doing a targeted weekly specific track session, I would call them, but you can do them anywhere. And then some type of tempo session would be the third key one. I say that, you know, on a feeling of 1 to 10, where 1 is super easy and 10 is max effort, the tempo runs are about a 7. They're uncomfortable, but you can sustain them.
I want to talk about something else that I think is talked about a lot, and that's zone 2 training. Talk to me about like what zone 2 training is, and I guess why it's not really something for people who are time poor to really focus on.
If we're looking at heart rates, zone 2 is like at a very sustainable effort. And you're right, like they say, you know, you should be spending a majority or a fair bit of your time in that zone. But if you're only running for 4 to 5 hours a week, there's no way that you should be sitting in there all of that time, because you're just not going to be getting the adaptations.
The minimum effective dose of zone 2 training is going to be about 4 to 5 hours. Most amateurs are not going to be hitting that. You're going to get more bang for your buck if you kind of just forget about this zone 2 idea. Your long runs are still probably going to be in zone 2, but you're going to really want to focus on understanding how tempo runs fit in, understanding how, you know, threshold and you know, even harder intervals fit into your training, rather than obsessing over heart rate numbers, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
I want to talk to you about another thing, which is, you know, training mental resilience. I see you a lot simulating race conditions and challenging yourself. You know, we've done it when we went to, you know, Warren Bungles and did, you know, your 7 Summits FKT challenge and,
Yep.
you know, other FKT segments. You know, you're constantly finding ways to challenge yourself and put yourself into that really accountable race-like situation.
These are test sessions that I do, you know, specifically every couple of weeks, if not more. Yeah, that's where I'm kind of doing something a little bit crazy or a little bit hard. Helps develop like an internal strength. You know, you can be doing other things like imagining yourself within races and kind of helping develop those visual imprints so that, you know, you're not letting everything that's happening impact you right then and there. You're able to kind of really pull yourself back to being right in the zone, present moment focused.
For amateurs, it's not like we're saying, oh, go and chase this, you know, fastest known time on this segment or anything. I even think going and doing Parkrun, you know, every couple of weeks and putting yourself into a race environment where you might be just, you know, racing with someone and even if you're doing a 25-minute Parkrun or a 27-minute Parkrun, there's going to be that point at the end of the race where you're going to be pushing against someone else and that's going to build mental resilience.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, mate, finally, I'm going to do a quick fire series of questions for you where we're going to talk about, you know, each distance that people might be aiming for, all the way from 5K to ultra marathons. Let's start with Parkrun. 5K, what should their training volume look like and what should they prioritize?
So short efforts, VO2 max training, you know, 400 meter reps are really, really good for this type of distance that you're targeting. Hill strides, you know, you've still got that long run happening.
Okay, and what kind of distance do you reckon long run if you're targeting 5K?
Needs to be 75 minutes or longer.
Okay, what about 10K? If people are going for a 10K road race, what should it look like for them?
So 10K road races require you to have a good threshold. So they're hard, they're uncomfortably hard. This is kind of around the 8.5 kind of scale when we're looking at it from 0 to 10. I think my biggest piece of advice would be, you know, building up to being able to do sustainable efforts where your pace is similar. So you don't really want to be doing one at VO2 max pace and then you've gassed yourself and the next one's at tempo, and then by the end of the session, your third or fourth rep, you're back down at long run pace.
What about for half marathon?
Tempo sessions are the most important sessions for half marathons. They're the longer efforts where, you know, you're sitting at about that 7 out of 10. You are wanting to build up to be doing like about 30 minutes of tempo within a key session if you're going to target your half marathon.
And for most people, what kind of weekly volume would you be expecting them to hit, I guess, at the peak of their build for a half marathon?
You'd probably be wanting to hit at least 40 kilometres a week, up to 75 kilometres a week, you know, and obviously the higher end runners will be well beyond that.
All right, let's talk about full road marathons. What should people be aiming for with that?
Yeah, 75 kilometres would be a really good volume to aim for. May not be sustainable all the time, and that's why you might fluctuate between 75 and 60. So the key sessions for the full marathon would be your long runs, and specifically your faster finish or marathon pace effort long runs. Overall, your long run pace will be definitely slower than what your marathon race pace is, but you should be doing specific marathon pace efforts within your long run, either within or at the end as a key weekly session.
Okay, and let's talk about now, you know, your focus at the moment, which is ultra marathons. What kind of volume?
It doesn't actually need to be a lot higher, but probably 65 to 75, 80 kilometres a week, you know, if you're trying to finish one of these big races. But the session that becomes really important is the long run again, but long runs with vert.
All right, that's it for this week. When this video goes live, we're going to be out on trail for the Cosy Miler, so hopefully we'll have a really great story to tell and we'll share that the following week. So can't wait to share that with you, but until then, enjoy your running.
Yeah, thank you.